So today I wanted to show you how I set up my set for video and for filming myself in particular. So I'm not talking about how I film myself when I'm doing my movies and stuff like that, my short films. Specifically talk about YouTube style stuff, talking head, how I get, how I get to look like this. I'm gonna do a little quick sentence, I guess, on the gear that I use. I do not think it's important what gear you use at all, whether you're using the phone in your pocket or you're using like a $20,000 red camera. Right now I am using the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. Wouldn't really recommend it for YouTube just because it doesn't have a flip screen, it doesn't really have very good autofocus, it doesn't have any of those nice convenient features, but I do make short films, so I'm using that camera. And then the mic I actually have on a light stand here because I can't really afford a mic stand. I'm just joking. I can afford a mic stand, but I spend my money on other stuff. And then I have the Rode Video Mic Go on this, and it's kind of trying to get as close as me to possible. I'll bring this into frame here so you can see it. And then I bought this really long cable that then goes directly into the camera, so I don't have to sync any audio later. Right here I have this nice softbox. I'll have the link for what it's called in the description. I actually don't know what it is. It's on orange, so let's have an orange color temperature shining this way, and it's kind of above, so it gives shadows facing down. And then I have a blue light down here without any softbox, and that's kind of just like the fill light, and that's filling the side of my face. And then as for the set, I have my laptop and my monitor back there. So yeah, that's kind of just go over like how I film it in terms of like just saying how I film it with what gear. But in terms of creatively, I kind of wanted to show you how to film yourself. So let's first start at visual. So I'm talking about what the person's gonna see in terms of picture. Now, typically there's really no one hard rule. It's just basically about creative preference. But I am gonna talk about kind of the different creative preferences that you're gonna do. So right now, I think probably the most important is your focal length, what you're gonna use, because you're actually gonna get a completely different mood depending on the different focal length. For me, I'm using a 14mm, but a full frame equivalent to a 28mm. And what I mean by that is basically on a normal full frame camera with a full frame sensor, it would be 28mm. So if you're using an APS-C camera, you could be using a Micro Four Thirds, doesn't really matter, but check, yeah. So I'm kind of using just a 28mm. I think 28 is probably one of the most common focal lengths for doing YouTube talking head stuff. If we just bring this way out all the way wide, as you can see, now you can kind of start seeing the light a little bit and more of the mic here, so I don't want that. But yeah, this is very wide. As you can see, it's kind of distorting, and it kind of gives that really nice wide look that vloggers love. But if you're doing this kind of talking head stuff, again, I'd recommend kind of a 28mm should work. So yeah, in terms of visual, it's kind of all up to creative preferences, but lighting is a very big important, I think the most important thing. So if you're going to invest in anything, I think a light would be a very good investment. So this is my softbox over here. It is orange, because right now I'm actually doing something that I think you should probably do too, and that is mixing two different colors together. So right now I have blue and orange. So I have a blue color temperature and an orange color temperature. Now these lights are not RGB, but they do have a white balance on them, the color temperature, so I get to change the color temperature, so I get to have a blue and an orange light. And the reason I chose blue and orange is because if we look at the color spectrum, blue is at the very bottom and orange is at the very top. And if we look in different movies and films, you're going to notice that blue and orange is used so much, and it looks so great. And I'm also, I'm not using the 3-point lighting setup right now, but the 3-point lighting setup is probably the most commonly used. A lot of creatives like it. I'll leave a tutorial down below on the 3-point lighting setup. Basically, you have your key light, you have your fill light, you have your backlight. Right now I'm using a weird lighting setup that I actually just made up myself, where I basically have an orange softbox over here, and I have a blue light down at the bottom there. And then for audio is another very, very important thing. I think actually more important than visuals in my personal preference, because let's turn back on the audio, turn off the visuals. Now you can hear me and you can understand the story, but you can't see me, but at least you can understand the story. So I think audio is very important, and there's nothing I love better than crisp, beautiful sounding audio. And you can get it on almost every mic. Basically, the one rule with audio is you want the mic as close to the subject as possible without getting in the shot. So if I bring this mic into the shot here, you can see where it is in the frame. The mic I'm using, it's a not a very great mic. I actually wouldn't really recommend it, to be honest with you. It's a Rode Video Mic Go. The Rode Video Mic Go 2 just came out, and I'm actually going to buy that, I think, because it looks really great. But this is the Rode Video Mic Go 2, or Video Mic Go 1, actually. Yeah, it's not very good, but I've gotten it pretty close to me. I think it sounds pretty good. Tell me in the comments if you think it sounds good, because I like it. It is as close to me as possible. And since I don't have a mic stand, I just have my light stand on this mic, so I can really put it towards me. And then for set, I think set's a really important thing because you don't want to just have a blank background. Well, you can, but I like to have stuff in the background, but I don't want it to be distracting for the person. So I want the person to acknowledge that it's there, but I don't want them to be looking at it instead of me. So I don't want to have any really big objects that distract me. And also I'm using the rule of thirds here, so I'm in the middle of the shot. So if I were to move this camera over here, you can still kind of see me here. Let's move it a little bit more like that. You can still kind of see me, but I'm not really in the shot. So you're probably looking at my wall over there, which is kind of unorganized right now, so I don't really want you to see that. And that's kind of how you film yourself in a kind of a controlled studio environment. Okay, so for gear that I would recommend for indoor studio setting up, this is a little bit more loose because you can really do it with any gear. It's a little bit different to vlogging, which is very specific on like what gear I think you should use. But for indoor controlled lighting environments and just, you know, studio spaces, a camera that I think I would really recommend if you're on a budget is the Sony A65. I have used this camera quite a bit. I do really like it. I don't personally own it, my friend does, so I've used it through him quite a bit. And yeah, it's a really great camera if you're on a budget. Again, it's not super duper cheap, it's about $1,000, but it still is kind of on the cheaper end if you're looking in the grand scheme of things. The camera that I'm using right now, like I said earlier, is the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. The reason I wouldn't recommend it for any sort of YouTube setup is just because it has it has autofocus technically, but it's really bad. And you actually have to hold a button for the audio focus to work, so I have to be like way over here leaning, where the A6500 has really great autofocus. It does not have a flip screen though, which is kind of a downside, but I think for vlogging and for a lot of stuff, it's really in the lens, so yeah. You just know your lenses and really get a wide lens if you're going to do vlogging, and for studio spaces, yeah, again, wider is probably better for doing this kind of talking head stuff. 35mm is kind of the perfect, but I actually prefer 28 or even lower. So yeah, remember to check out some more videos, subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one, guys. Bye.